Think we're up and running, folks. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday night, coming at you live. We're a little bit late tonight, not too bad though. But coming at you from a new location. Hopefully the Wi-Fi does a little better. We've had some Wi-Fi issues. We're in a little small room that I have in my house that I'm turning into a office of sorts where I'll be doing all my editing and stuff going forward. So we'll be doing live streams from here. We've already got one little piece of Bass paraphernalia right there. My kids got me that sign a while back. So this is a good place for it. And actually, right over here, we're going to be doing something big on this wall over here that's completely empty right now. I'm not on the porch. There actually is a wall here, see? We've got to close that area off what used to be the back porch on this house. But anyway, got some comments coming in. Alright, so what we're going to do on this wall, this directly to my right here, I'm actually going to take and get the top 5 fish that we've ever caught on the Your Lake Fork Guide channel. The biggest fish that we've ever caught on the channel. We're going to get those mounted and do like a big wall mount. Now this is probably going to take months. I know it'll take months just to get the mount done. It'll take months for me to come up with the money to do the mount. So it probably will be a long-term project. But eventually I want to have my top 5 fish that's ever been on the channel mounted right here on this wall. And then we'll be doing our live streams from right here. You guys will be able to see them all every week, which is pretty cool. And if you go on a trip with me, or if you're in a video with me, and we catch a bigger fish than one of the 5 up here, we'll get it mounted, and yours will get to replace one of the old ones. So that's always a cool deal. Let's see who else here. Awesome. Pro player, Monster Bass, and Fred Solis, Frisco, Texas man, old Marine Corps. Jack Bass and Around, that's a great name. And Fishing Free Gomez. Been missing you the last couple times, I think. Maybe not. I could be wrong. Well, what's going on, man? It's hot, guys. It is a hot time of year to fish. Michael Bray. I appreciate that. Yeah, please do, Michael Bray. Please do. Nelly V in the house. So, we had a little bit of cooler weather. I bet that was nice. Here's the deal. I actually took some time off this week. I've been off the water since this last weekend. I haven't been on the water not one day this week. I'm not going to be on the water this weekend, and I'm not going to be on the water next week. I'm taking 2 weeks off. So for my top 5 baits, I would say that my number 1 bait is breakfast with my wife and kids in the morning. And my number 2 bait is fantasy football draft prep, doing a couple mock drafts here and there. My number 3 bait for this week is probably Crown Royale, little Crown Black, and my number 4 bait is Coca-Cola, and my number 5 bait is Sleeping In. That's my top 5 baits for the week. Hope that helps y'all. I think if you do take all those baits and put them all in play, you'll have a great, great weekend. But if you guys want to ask me, be honest with you guys, if I was fishing, I highly doubt I'd be doing anything different. It'd be that big shaky head with that brand new worm. By the way, Smash Tech Baits, that worm is now available. The Magnum Crawler is up for sale on their website. Got to try myself. I've drank Crown of 7 before. That's good. Crown of 7's good. Crown Apple. Man, that just... I feel soft enough. I feel feminine enough mixing my Crown with a soft drink. I don't know that I want to go to Crown Apple. That would just, I don't know, man. I have to start wiping my lip with my skirt or something. I don't know. Fastest way to locate fish on a big grass flat, find creek channel swings and fish around those. Must be fall. Yeah, fall started. It's not 100 degrees. That's right. When is the fishing going to start getting better on Fork? Planning on another trip? Man, it just depends on when the turnover happens. As soon as the turnover's done, it's gangbusters. It's not, like, terrible. It's just very isolated. Like, there's fish to be caught. It's just, if you're going to fish shallow, it's pretty much an early morning deal. Or late evening, either one. And if you're going to fish throughout the day, then it happens in isolated little groups on small areas. So it becomes a little tougher to find them. But when you do find them, you catch some really big fish right now doing it. Somebody said they went to Monticello. The big red worm were great. Guys, you guys have no idea what's coming up on this channel. You know, I told some of you guys that we got like a 36, 37 pound bag coming, and it's the biggest Best Five bag we've ever caught on the channel. What I didn't realize till I thought about it a little further is that we did something that I don't think's ever been done before. Major League Fishing hadn't done it. There's one video on YouTube, and I'm not trying to knock this guy Mikey Balls. He's a great fisherman, and that day he had was unbelievable, better than any day I've ever had, for sure. But they said that in the video title there was 100 pounds of bass, but yet if you add everything up that they showed, it was 89 pounds and change. We actually have, in that video where we catch a 37 pound bag for our Best Five, we catch 104 pounds. I think that's what it was. We're over 100 pounds in one day. And actually, it was a half day. We were done at noon. So we caught over 100 pounds of bass on camera. I don't think that's ever been documented on film that way before. So we kind of got a little bit of a first coming up. So y'all stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good one. Is cooler water a must when fishing grass? No, not at all. Sometimes when you get the real heavy mat, the hotter it gets, the more they get in there. Michael Salinas, the cop guy. Oh, the cop. You know what, cop guys? Michael Salinas, text me when this is, not right now, not when we're doing the live stream. Michael, please text me in about 45 minutes. I got something I need to talk to you about, actually. Yeah, that Mikey Balls video was unbelievable. I'm not trying to knock Mikey Balls' video in any way. That 49 pounds on our Best Five, 39 pounds on our next Best Five. But that's all it showed on the video that I could find. It was 89 pounds. And that's unbelievable. I mean, that's incredible. That in itself is bigger than any one single day that any anglers had on Major League Fishing. And all the Major League Fishing rounds they'd done, their biggest bag was 88.10, which was here in East Texas, by the way, by Timmy Horton. But, yeah, I mean, anytime you start getting in that category, man, that's an all-time kind of day. Come to Lake Chickamauga. I would love to come to Lake Chickamauga. The problem is I'm tied up down here. I got the camera facing wrong. I keep putting my finger in front of it today. So, I don't fish a Carolina rig much, and I went and caught a 7.37 on a Carolina rig and bubble fry for first in big bass last Thursday. 5 keepers fishing. Dude, that's awesome. That's so cool. I guess you learned about the bubble fry from the video we did on it. That's really cool. Can I expand on the offshore structure in shallow water? You know what? How about I do a Guides Network video talking about that and explaining it in detail? All it is, guys, it's just like, I'll try to explain it to you right now. So, it is just like when you're looking for structure out on the main lake, a hump on the end of a point, a pond dam, whatever. You're looking for those contour lines where they bunch up. You got to find the same thing in shallow water. It's just harder to find because it's more subtle. The angles aren't as big. You know, you might have a 10-foot drop out in the main lake where it might be a 3-foot drop or 4-foot drop in shallow water. And that's harder to identify on a map. So there's a little bit more of that grind it till you find it type of scenario where you kind of have to find something that the old school way, paying attention to your depth finder. Looking at the grass lines. Where do they fall off? Where does that grass mat bunch up and then taper away real quick? Where does it spread out as it tapers away? Little things like that you can help key in on it. But really, it's just about studying your map and then paying attention to your depth when you're in that creek and watching for that, you know, when your depth finder all of a sudden jumps up. Man, troll around that area on your depth finder and just study the heck out of it. Because those can be such a big deal. When everybody else is fishing shallow and they're cutting donuts around you, all going down the bank and fishing all the visible stuff, you can... Sorry about that, guys. I actually had a really good signal going, and then somebody decided to call me while we were doing a live stream. I should have put it on airplane mode. That's my fault. Anyway, you can be sitting out there. When you find that stuff, it can be subtle. It can be hard to find. But when you do find it, you can be sitting out in the middle and have people just cutting donuts all the way around you in a creek. And they're literally pushing every fish in the creek to you. and you just got them coming to you, and you got a big source of fish versus picking off one here, one there. It's a big, big, big deal. And I've kind of in a lot of ways, first couple years and as I'm getting started here in my guide business here the last few years, I've kind of made my living on that stuff. And it's one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's not easy to find. And not everybody's going to take the time that it takes to find it because it's a very old school way of finding a spot. And, today people can just run around on electronics and look out deep and find stuff like that all over the place. What rod, what rod do you use for spoons? And will that same rod work for a shaky head? For a small shaky head, you could use the same rod. I like to use a more limber rod on a spoon. Even on the big ones, I'll go with like a 611 medium heavy. The Lux rod, the 611 medium heavy is the one that I use. Use smaller line, 12, 15 pound line. I don't want to horse a fish on a spoon. That's the worst thing you can do. I learned that the hard way and through Joe Spates teaching me that. Which, if you don't know, Joe Spates invented the flutter spoon. He lives on Lake Fork. He's a close personal friend of mine, so it's great to have him as a resource to talk to about that technique. But I actually use lighter gear. Now, on that big shaky head, man, I'm using it. It's got a 7/0 hook on that big 5/8 ounce shaky head that I use, and I'm using my jig rod. I'm using the 7.5 extra heavy. I want a meat stick on that thing because it's got that big 7/0 hook. I want to be able to swing it hard. Smash Tech Bubble Fry with Red Flake works great on Lake of the Ponds. Man, that bait works everywhere, guys. Every daggone where. Alright, fellas. If y'all got some questions, please drop them in as we're going along here. In a grass flat that... Oh, here we go. I was trying to answer a question. If a grass flat doesn't have a creek channel running through it, does it mean it's no good? No, it doesn't necessarily mean it's no good. I mean, if it's got the right depth on the grass. So if you're in a Florida scenario, a bowl, the grass lines become the contours in that situation. So I'll try to explain what I mean by that. If you don't have any contours, if it's just a flat bowl like most of the Florida lakes are, and some of our lakes in southeast Texas where I grew up are this way. Lake Conroe can be this way. Little subtle depth changes, if you have any at all, will make a big difference. But in a lot of scenarios, the grass line becomes the contours. And what I mean by that is wherever a grass makes a point, or there's a hump of grass, there's a clump of grass isolated out in the middle, well, that's now your hump. That's your main lake point. Different things like that. So you just got to look for irregularities within the grass. Where two grasses blend is always a big, big, big deal in that scenario. If you've got, hyacinth and you've got hydrilla, wherever that comes together, that's always a thing in that scenario from my experience. Do I ever throw the bubble fry in the colder months? I personally don't. It's not that it wouldn't work. I'm a jig guy. I mean, if I'm fishing deep in the wintertime, if I'm fishing bottom-related stuff deep in the wintertime, 100% there's going to be a jig in my hand. Part of that is because Lake Fork's probably the best jig lake in the daggum country or world. Part of that is because a jig catches such a bigger size class fish on average. And part of it is just my preference to fish a jig. But I definitely fish a jig. Like that's the only bait I'm going to throw that's going to be dragging on the bottom in winter. Other than maybe a, finesse Carolina rig lizard or something up shallow. If I'm fishing out main lake, out deep on the bottom, it's a jig in the winter. Tips for Brandy Branch. I've actually got Monday's videos from Brandy Branch. So I had to film a bunch in advance of this 2-week vacation that I'm taking right now. So I've got some, that's why the big day on Monticello is taking so long to get out. So Brandy Branch videos coming out on Monday. Swim baits on jig heads were the biggest deal for us out there. Also caught some Carolina rigging. I believe it was the bubble fry. My buddy Tim caught a couple on Carolina rigging. But the swim bait on a jig head was the biggest deal for us on Brandy Branch. So you guys will see that coming up Monday as well. Outside the grass. They're actually, Brandy Branch has got all that grass. Every fish we caught was outside the grass line. Like right on the outside edge in like 20, 22 foot of water. Correlating that with humps and points and stuff like that. Through the Bubble Fry today, the plastic is better than the original. They actually didn't change anything, so that's kind of surprising to hear. They didn't change anything in the formula. They didn't change the mold. I mean, everything's going in the exact same, so they may just be using a better quality plastisol now for raw material. I don't know, but yeah. We have a lot of zebra mussels, and I break off the C-rig a lot. You think it would be okay running braid on the main line? Well, I can tell you this. If you run braid on zebra mussels, it will cut braid. Something like a zebra mussel or sharp rocks will cut braid worse than it will cut mono or fluoro. You know, in that situation, the best line to use is actually some really heavy pound tests, like 20, 25, 30 maybe. Old Big Game, Berkley Big Game is the toughest stuff made when it comes to rocks or zebra mussels. What is the difference between a bubble fry and a ring fry? Well, ring fry is a little bit longer, a little bit bigger profile bait. It has rings around it, has two kind of fat ends on it. Bubble fry, like I said, a little bit shorter. It's got studs on it, not rings. The rings move water. The studs actually create a bubble trail when it moves through the water, and it has those holes in the bottom of it. If you rig it with the holes down, those holes actually will trap air and release even more bubbles. That's why it's called the bubble fry. It actually creates a bubble trail when you're moving it through the water. That's really the difference. It's a very similar bait, but you know, that's the subtle difference. I think somebody just walked in my house. Hopefully one of my kids didn't walk out. Fishing an old silted lake with not much timber or grass and water's not very clear. Some rock around the shore, there's a few drop-offs on points. What baits would you start with? Right now, I'm going to throw a shaky head for sure. I'm going to crank them rocks as much as I can. Probably do a lot of cranking on that lake. That'd be my two best ideas, would be that shaky head and a crankbait. Beat that crankbait off them rocks a little bit. Maybe that swim bait on jig head might work too. Probably not though if the water's not very clear. You need to have some clarity for that swim bait deal. I think that's where it'd go. Did I see your fish pic 2 weeks ago that said thanks to you? Man, I probably did. Look, and I know there's probably some folks out there that have been commenting. I've been getting calls and messages every day. I always do, and I usually get back to most of them. But here lately, I haven't been getting. I just honestly, man, I ignored the phone and ignored the computer for a few days, taking some time off. Even with these 2 weeks in a row off, I'm going to fish right at 300 days this year. Man, that's a lot. I mean, that is absolutely a lot. I was a little burnt out, if I'm being honest. I love fishing, but I was burnt. I was burnt up. It got hot early this year. And you've got to be freaking kidding me. So I never get phone calls in these, and now I've gotten 2 tonight. So anyway, JD, I probably did see your picture, but there's been a lot of messages and calls that I have not answered over the last several days. So I apologize to those of you trying to get in touch with me. I will get back to every one of you that I possibly can. I get a lot of calls and messages these days, guys. That's the bottom line. It's more than I can keep up with at times. John from Paris, Texas. I think I did see that. I do remember seeing something about that. I almost promise you that I did see it. That was my wife that was calling me, and she's on the road with one of my kids. So I'm actually going to wrap this live stream up. If you have any last minute questions, please ask them real quick, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Do I ever throw the underspin any? I throw the weedless underspin religiously all the time. Been throwing it all year. The jig head underspin, yeah, I mean I do. You know, when I'm in open water, I want that bait to look as natural as possible. And when I have a jig head with a top hook sticking out of it, I'm throwing it in open water. So it kind of counteracts each other for me personally. It's just my preference. I like the swim bait on the jig head with nothing else on it. I want the bait to look as real and natural as possible when I'm in open water, because those fish will follow that swim bait for so long in that open water and come in for such a long ways looking at it. I don't want anything that doesn't look natural. That's just my personal preference. Briar Howe, I appreciate you saying that, buddy. Thank you. I was glad to do that. That was a blast for you guys. Best way to find a productive ledge on Chickamauga. If they're pulling current, think about the way the current sets them up. Look for the hardest bottoms. And then look for bait presence. And that's what I would do if I was going there. It's that simple. I would think about which way the current's going to be running. If it's wind current, if it's current they're pulling through the river system, think about which way the current's running. Try to get the ledges that have the hardest bottom areas, the shell beds, the stuff that we look for. Find out where that current's ripping across that, then look for bait presence. That's all I would do. Hey, Don Rogers, good to see you in here, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. I need to get back to my wife, see what she's doing, because, like I said, she's on the road from Dallas with one of my kids, so I need to see what she wanted for her to be calling. That's kind of odd. So, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Appreciate you guys staying with us as always. We will have a awesome. All right. Sorry, still reading comments. I get a little. Well, I'm not very good at multitasking. If I get to reading something, my mind shuts down. I can only focus on one thing at once, one track mind. But, hey, we'll talk to you guys next week. We got a video from Brady Branch coming this week. We'll have another Good Guys Network episode. And then I'll see you guys next Thursday right here. And then the Monday after that, we're going to drop the never before seen, never before done, never before caught on film, 100 pounds of bass in a half a day. So you guys stay tuned for that, man. Love you guys. Appreciate everything y'all do for me. Following in the community, what y'all do for each other. It's unbelievably awesome. We'll see you guys next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.